Hey everybody, Ty here. Hope everyone is doing well. So, in the last video, we kind of talked about the coastal storm that's ongoing right now, and it is causing its share of problems with flash flooding. But for this upcoming week in particular, we're going to really put our focus on the whole entire weather pattern in general. As you've seen over these last few weeks, it's been relatively quiet over the lower 48, not much in the way of troughing, not much in the way of big time thunderstorms or severe weather events. But I get the feeling that things are about to change here. And the particularly notable sign that I've had pop up here is the day 4 through 8 outlooks, where we've been potential too low over the last few weeks. Every day now is starting to show the predictability to low tags. And then if I were to go to the Climate Prediction Center page, if we look at the precipitation outlook as well, you can now see that there is a high likelihood of us seeing increased precipitation over the Midwestern and Western high plains as well. And this is going to progress off to the east over the course of the next couple of weeks. This goes in line perfectly with the model data that we've had come up here. So this is us looking at the GFS and the Euro here. I'm going to put both of these in a loop in just a moment. But simple fact of the matter is that the weather pattern is about to take a dramatic turn. It's not going to be staying quiet for much longer here. You see a big ridge that develops here, and this is going to increase the temperatures over the deep south. But in contrast to that, look at the troughing that we see off of both of these model runs here now. So with these troughs coming into play, and also becoming relatively intense at times too, there's going to be multiple opportunities for severe weather. Now, I want to make sure that I mention one thing with all of this. It's not uncommon during this time of year to see severe weather. This is actually referred to as our second season. Typically, you would see more of this kind of occurring a bit to the deep south, but it's also not uncommon to see this over towards the Missouri River Valley and the Missouri River Basin here as well, and northern parts of the Mississippi. So this is right about, I would say, on schedule. It's still going to be, of course, variable as to what these storm systems may yet do, especially considering the fact that these have not formed yet. But since we're getting within that 1 to 2 week time frame now, confidence has started to increase. And what's especially telling, again, as I mentioned before, is that both the GFS and the Euro are kind of picking up on these signals. Over the last few days, we've been kind of back and forth with the GFS and the Euro because they've been kind of showing mixed signals, but they're showing something a little bit more concrete now, so my confidence has definitely gone up with that. So with that in mind, we're going to actually take a look at a lower level of the atmosphere, because we were looking previously at a range where we were looking at where the jetliners kind of hang around at about 20 to 30,000 feet plus. We're getting towards the mid levels, and this is where really a lot of the magic starts to happen with our thunderstorms in particular. And what I want you to pay attention to is the troughing that we see at these levels, along with our contour lines, because it's these little wrinkles right here, these short waves that pop up, is also going to be a key factor when it comes to our severe weather. With the troughs being as strong as they are, I mean, it's not really going to take a whole lot for these to get going here, especially as we get towards that 20th time frame and beyond here. I really think that's going to be, at this point, the most telling, the most promising severe weather setup, if anything, at this point. So, like I said, a lot we're going to be keeping an eye on still. I'm probably going to be doing a follow-up video within the next couple of days where we start to take a look at more and more parameters here. With us being a little bit out of range still, I don't know if I want to take a look at the low-level jet just yet, or at least show it to you guys. We're not trying to get anyone to panic here, but the signs are definitely looking like they're beginning to come into place here. I've been looking at the other parameters as well, don't worry, but I don't want to hype anything up. This is not what this channel is intended for. A lot of people have been doing that lately, and this is not the place for that. We're going to be honest with you here. So now that we've taken a look at the 700 millibar as well, we know where our troughs are at this point. We know the time frames in which they will be coming into play. Another key factor, of course, for severe weather is going to be, of course, the moisture. Looking at our dew points and the flow of those said dew points is always going to be a key point of emphasis when it comes to severe weather. So we're going to put both of these up here. And there is a little bit of variability between the two models with this here. The GFS has been a little bit more aggressive with the moisture over the last few days. This model just came in for the Euro, though. So I'm still kind of on the fence with that. But one signal that has really come out to me in particular over the last 24 hours has really been more so over towards the 18th. And that's really when the most impressive troughing begins to really become more pronounced. And there is a coinciding moisture return to go along with that. Obviously, I'm looking at the euro right now as I'm trying to adjust everything and get a good look at what's going on here. From what I'm seeing just based off of this alone here, and I'm trying to make sure that I have the GFS on the same time frame to match, is that the euro actually has become a little bit more prominent in regards to the where I guess the frontal boundary would end up being with this setup here, which also makes me think that if this were to come into play next week, this would most likely be a linear event. GFS has a similar look, but the gradient, and what I mean by gradient is, and I'm actually going to go ahead and shift this over to the euro on the big screen so you can see it clearly. It's the gradient like this, where you see this sharp line between the 60 and 50 degree dew points. The more pronounced that is, the stronger the frontal boundary is. So, I mean, the temperature drop off is a little bit more variable, but you can see the sharp difference between the two here. So if that were to deepen, then I think we might have a much stronger severe weather scenario coming into play here, where the GFS, if we go back to that, it's just not quite as impressive. I mean, it's there, but it's kind of broken up. Moisture looks like it gets a little bit more used up in this scenario as well. So, like I said, even though we're not in the final forecast for this, there are a lot of little intricate details here that we're still trying to hash out here. I don't think we'll fully get 100% agreement between these two models, but the fact of the matter is that the signal is still very much prominent over these regions here. And again, I'm really thinking it's going to be the Midwest at this point that's going to have the severe weather to start out. We may shift our attention up towards the western states going forward, especially as that first trough leaves, we get that moisture to come right back. But the moisture is a little bit more variable with this one. But then, as we were looking at the troughing here, we started maybe shift our attention over towards the south a little bit more, which is again right about on schedule for this time of year. Euro's kind of showing a pretty similar scenario here as well. That trough clears out, we calm down for a little bit. Euro's a little less on board with this scenario coming into play in regards to those upcoming weeks. The troughing just doesn't really seem to come into play. The moisture is not really there. So again, like I said before, kind of the tale of two models, the further into range we go. So really the troughing that we'll see towards the end of the month is going to be key as to who gets what at the end as well. But one thing that we will see, especially with the ridging that we pointed out earlier, is we're going to see a notable increase in temperatures, especially over towards the southern plains and the deep south over the course of the next week or so. You can see some 80s and 90s starting to come in over here as we get towards Friday and beyond. It's become a little bit more widespread as we go forward here, but thankfully it does look like we begin to catch a little bit of a break out towards the eastern states. Texas, unfortunately for you, you aren't getting away as quickly. And then we start to kind of shift back into a similar look by the time we get towards the 27th. I'm really intrigued to see the way the ridge ends up setting up with this, because I think that also will play a huge factor in regards to who gets what for not only severe weather, but the temperatures as well. The ridge sets up where the GFS has previously had it, which is right over the southern plains. This is where we're going to see our hottest temperatures. But over towards the east side, I do think maybe for the Gulf states, maybe even as far east as maybe Georgia and the Carolinas, there might be opportunities for some scattered thunderstorms as a result of that as well. You always have to look to the offsides of the troughs of the ridge from time to time as well. When you're towards the center, you're more likely to get more dry air with that high pressure being built in. So last but not least, let's go ahead and take a look at what the weather models are showing in regards to our precipitation. And the biggest thing that, or the biggest takeaway that I've had beyond this coastal low, almost said tropical, hi AccuWeather, oops. Anyway, the biggest takeaway that I've had is, of course, for the rest of this week, we're looking pretty good. The setup for the 18th, as much as I would like to say that it still looks like it has a lot of potential, I think there's still maybe a lack of forcing with this based off of what the precip models are giving us here. We have the ample amount of moisture, we have a strong enough of a trough that comes into play, but for whatever reason, we just don't really have a stout signal with this as of yet. Sometimes the models need to come into line a little bit more with this. If anything, GFS is kind of leaning a little further towards the south with this scenario as far as the stronger storm system. If we look at the Euro here, which is just about on that same time frame again, it looks a tad bit more prominent, and then a much bigger setup comes into the south around the 20th to the 21st. So like I said, it really is going to depend on how that moisture gradient ends up setting up along the frontal boundary with this, because almost all storm systems come in with a frontal boundary of some sort. So it's kind of, like I said, there's still a lot of details really being hashed out with this at this point. And then another couple of things I want to make note of here, and I haven't talked about it a whole lot, is just the amount of moisture that we've been getting over the southwestern states as well. We've had a lot of moisture and a lot of rain over towards these areas, much more than what we're used to seeing. In fact, flash flood warnings and even emergencies have been issued here from time to time over the last couple of days. I think there was one even issued today over towards, I think it was Phoenix. I have to actually look at the report again. This was right at the time of me making this video, so I didn't have a whole lot of time to look at this while I was examining models. But still, a simple fact of the matter is, with this increased amount of troughing, because I mean, it has to start out over towards the west, we're going to continue to see opportunities for more moisture over towards these regions. And then for these little sneaky areas over towards the higher elevations where cold air is going to be mixed in with that moisture, we're going to continue to see more mountain snow with this as well. So a lot's starting to go on. Like I said, it's nothing too far out of the normal for this time of year, because I mean, we always end up having a shifting of air masses here. Whenever you have those occur, you will often get increased activity over the U.S. as a whole. So like I said, nothing too far out of the ordinary, but some interesting weather ahead that you should be keeping an eye out for. But that being said, I'm done with this one for now, and I'll see you guys very soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday.